Well, good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to this video series on seed funding. How you can raise the seed funding you need without angels and VCs. My name is Michael Scott. Yes, just like the lead character on the Office TV series, but I am the original, much smarter. And I'm going to be your host today as I review in this second part of a three-part series 5 key components you want to have in your seed funding strategy in order to find and close more money. Now, this content is focused on early seed funding from other sources besides angels and VCs, particularly for your first $1 million up to $3 million or so. Okay, in the first part of this video series, we talked about the things that you shouldn't be doing anymore. In this second part, we're going to talk about the 5 key components that you want to have in your seed funding strategy in order to find and close more money. Now, you don't absolutely need to be doing all 5 to get a check, but if you do, know your chances of closing more and larger investments increase dramatically. Here are the 5 key components you want to have in your seed funding strategy. First is making sure the investors you are going after are what I call the right type of investors. Next is an exciting story. At every level of fundraising, investors need to be excited about what you're doing. Then investors need to see that you have done something productive with the money you have raised to date. And investors really need to see what's in it for them. How will they make money? And when are you thinking an exit might occur? And lastly, giving investors a sweetener is so important at the early seed funding stage, particularly your first $1 million. You need them to not only write a check, but write a bigger check now. Now let's start with the right investor targets. You can say anyone who writes you a check is the right investor, but you can't afford to waste time going after investors where there is a low percent to 0% chance of them making an investment. So I'm going to review some low percentage targets first, and then I'll give you several examples of right investor targets for seed funding. As we go through this list of low percentage investor targets, remember this is not absolute and there are always exceptions. But to begin with, just being rich does not make them a good seed investor candidate. It depends on how they got their money and what kind of investments they are involved in today. And the richer they are, the less likely they will be interested in your seed investment. Watch out for people who offer upfront to make introductions if you first give them a piece of your company. They are unlikely to produce a single investment for your company and rarely even a meeting, but they will take your precious equity if you give it to them. Tell them no up front, but it's okay to make a deal with them to give them some stock if one of their introductions does invest. The moment a prospective investor says they need to run this by their financial advisor, they're not investing. They just don't know how to tell you to your face. A financial advisor and her CPA is there to protect the assets of their clients and will steer them away from high-risk investments like yours. A seed investor needs to be excited to write a check, not play it safe by running it by their advisors. Sounds like a great deal, right? Pay us $2,500 or $3,500 and you'll get to present to our group of angel investors. You're thinking, sweet, I can get in front of a bunch of angels at the same time. And if just one of them invests, it will be worth the money I paid. And you're right. If one of them invests enough, it would be worth the fee. But most angel groups are social clubs, and few companies actually get investments. Now, if you do some searching, you can find lists of venture capitalists who invest in pre-seed to seed funding. But keep in mind, they also look at 1,000 or more deals for every one they invest in. That's what makes them a low percentage investor target. Not zero, but very low. Now let's talk about some of the right investor targets. And we begin with family and friends, those that already know you. The people who you have history with are the most likely to want to help you if they can, particularly with your earliest seed funding. Now, there are some MLE type investors who are experienced in early stage investing and should be at the top of your prospective investor list. They have money, they've done this before, so they know what they're getting into. You just need to convince them yours is a worthwhile investment. These people are also the best to make introductions for you to others like them who will also invest in startups. MLEs whose assets have significantly appreciated, like when real estate is up, or those that made money in crypto and got it out before it crashed, for example. Psychologically, the fact that they have made money with other investments of theirs gives them a sense of higher intelligence and personal confidence in their own judgment. That may not be true, but it does make them highly desirable potential investors. MLEs who are building their wealth almost exclusively through their income have got in that position because they are highly knowledgeable and skilled in their chosen profession. Though they often have little, if any, knowledge or experience in investments, they are looking for places to put the money they are making and can be attracted to the potential windfall from betting on the right startup. Angels usually concentrate in specific industries, so know their focus before approaching. Angels who already have investments in your space can be great at the right time, like when you're ready with proof. However, if you can begin to build relationships with the right angels early and keep them informed of your progress, they will be primed to invest when you're ready. It's all about how and when you approach them. Okay, now let's talk about the second key component to raising early seed money, an exciting story. Well, what makes an exciting story? Everything about the business that makes it unique, and especially what you've already accomplished that is already bringing your vision to life. Your story is one of the defining factors in what makes an investor write a check. What does your product or service do to solve a real problem? And if you're solving a problem, how much of a problem is it and for how many people? What have you done to prove it solves that problem? If you created a new technological approach that made it possible, put a spotlight on that in your story. People love to believe they're investing in something that may redefine the paradigm because of some innovation the world has never seen before. If you've been able to achieve any of your high-risk items and taken those issues off the table, shine a spotlight on those in your story. The more you have already accomplished, the better. It proves to prospective investors you and your team know what they're doing and can get things done. If you've completed your prototype and have prospective customers already testing and using it, that's major. If you have customers waiting for you to scale and get your product or service to them, that's a huge milestone. Now let's talk about breakthrough achievements. What prospective investors are most interested to see is momentum. They want to jump on a moving train, better yet a rocket ship, not one that's still trying to pull away from the station. How are actual users responding to your product or service? If you have beta users who are referring their friends, and those friends are also using your product or service, that's really big. If you gave some early users your product to test and then asked for it back, and they offered to pay you to keep it, that's massive. Of course, every investor would prefer you were already generating revenue. Nothing proves your business like people already paying you anything for your product or service. The more you can demonstrate through results that the future you describe is close at hand, the more likely they are to write a check. If you're in the B2B space, there is nothing that validates your business model like signing an agreement with an established company who wants your product or service, even if it's just a development agreement. Scaling is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. Now, this is where actual revenue is not always necessary to raise substantial amounts of money. Waiting lists of customers who have signed up or put themselves on a list to be able to try your product when it's available demonstrates almost as much as actually generating revenue. Anything you can do to have people put themselves on a waiting list is huge. Now we get to the investor. They are writing checks because of what it means to them. They're not doing it to help you unless they're family members and really close friends. They are doing it to make money. And you must be crystal clear on how they will make money, and potentially when an exit for them might occur. You have to tie all the things you're trying to accomplish with what it means to their investment and how it will increase in value as a result. What does it mean to their investment value for you to complete your prototype or scale it, or sign your first agreement? It's critical to translate your projections to their investment without making any promises and heavily conditioning any statements you make. But you have to put the future in their perspective. You have to get them excited about your future. Will completing your next milestone make you a likely acquisition target? And to who? Will signing a deal with XYZ company potentially lead to them buying your company down the road? This is where convertible notes can be especially valuable as vehicles in the early seed funding stage, particularly your first $1 million, especially with family, friends, and MLE investors. No matter what the future holds, your investor is gaining interest on their investment every month. Even if that increase will convert to stock later, their principal is still growing, which means their investment continues to increase in value. Now we come to probably the most important of the 5 key elements of raising early seed money, the sweetener. Remember, seed investing is a 90+% emotional decision. And before you deal with professional angels and venture capital, you're just getting investments from ordinary people. And seed investors need motivation to write checks quickly, while the aura of your presentation and story is still fresh. If not, their life, will get in the way. So you must give them a reason to write that check today, tomorrow, or in the next few days at the most. Here's an example of an imminent event that includes a deal for those that get in now before the event. The thing about creating an imminent event is that you need to stick to your story and move on. If an imminent event and sweetener doesn't get them to act, they were never going to invest, at least not in your seed round. Now, there are lots of variations of this approach, but this is another example of both an imminent event and a deal. Again, you have to be able to walk away when you make offers like this, but you can also let it slide a day or two. If they call you back on Monday and say they're ready to write you a check now, or if they need time to liquidate other assets, for example, like public stock. Now, this is a great example of a successful approach to ladder up the sweetener to get them to make a bigger investment, which is obviously desired. The bigger the check, the fewer investors you need. You'll be surprised at how many will give you more money to get a better deal. It's like getting in on a sale. And the fact is, you should be okay with a sale that brings in larger investments. For certain individuals, knowing they can have a direct influence on the company and its development can make a huge difference in not only investing, but also how much they will be willing to invest. Okay, now we've gone over what you should stop doing, things you should start doing, and in the third and final video in this series, I'll be reviewing what you should be accomplishing with the seed money you raise if you plan on raising a Series A or any follow-on funding. Okay, That wraps up part 2 of this video series. I hope you found this information helpful and that it in some way contributes to your success building your company. Be sure to watch part 3 if you plan on raising money from angels and VCs, as I touch on the things you must be accomplishing with your early seed money if you plan to approach them. Now, I understand concepts presented in this video were not provided in sufficient detail to put them into execution. So I'm working on several follow-on videos that will provide the detail you're looking for so you can integrate them into your early seed funding strategy. They will be added to the seedexcel.co website when they're completed. If you're not already, please register at seedexcel.co and you'll be notified when they've been posted. Thank you again so much for your time today. And please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or send me an email if you'd like. Just please note in your message that you saw this video series. I would appreciate it. Again, I'm the original Michael Scott. May God bless your work, you, your family, and keep you safe. Peace out.